Hebrew Vision Live. Hallelujah. Yikadal, Vayikadesh, Shemay Rabah. Amen. Yalmadi Barakerote, Vayimelech Malkute. Chayechun Uvyamichun Uvchayeda Kolbeit Yisrael. Bagala Uvizman Kari. Vimeru, Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabba Mavorach. Yolam Ulme Almaya. Yit Barak Vayishtabach. Vayit Pa'ar, Vayit Roman, Vayit Naseh. Vayit Adar, Vayit Alei, Vayit Alal, Shemei the Kudashah, Berichu. Le'ela min kol barakata vashirata, Tush bechata, Vanechmata, Damiran ba'ama, Vimeru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Amen Shavaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'yal Kol Israel, Vimeru Amen. Osei Shalom Bim Romav, Hu Yasei Shalom. Aleinu v'Kol Israel. V'meru. Amen. Magnified and sanctified may his great name be in the world he created by his will. May he cause his kingdom to be established in your lifetime and in your days, and in the lifetime of all the house of Israel, swiftly and soon. And let us say Amen. May his great name be blessed forever and all time. Blessed and praised, esteemed and exalted, raised and honored, uplifted and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he, beyond any blessing, song, praise, and consolation uttered in the world, and let us say Amen. May there be great peace from heaven, and good life for us in all the house of Israel, and let us say Amen. May he who makes peace in his high places make peace for us in all the house of Israel, and let us say Amen. Hallelujah. Shalom Aleichem to the listening audience. I am your host this evening, Mikael Corbin Yahu. You are here with us at Hebrew Vision Live this evening, and we have a dynamic show in store for you tonight. We have none other than the brother Divine Prospect, the RBG Hebrew. He will be calling in on the line very shortly, and we will be delving into the depths with Divine Prospect. And so, before we do, I always want to give a shout out to the sister, Akot Nakia Bat Yahuda, for the track that we have as our theme song here at Hebrew Vision. That track is entitled Let My People Go. It's featuring the brother Nehemiah, the sister Yaleach, and yours truly, Mikael Corbin Yahu. And that track is a very powerful song that we recorded in the Holy Land when I was just up there this past April for Pesach. And man, just a powerful experience. And so, as we prepare to get Brother Divine Prospect on the call, you know, we just want to kind of just reflect on some of this week's current events prior to that. And this week's Parsha, of course, Parsha Toldot, which is dealing with the generations of the patriarch Yitzhak, or the patriarch of Isaac. And, you know, a lot of things thematically are taking place in this week's portion. And we're dealing with a transferal of the promises from the patriarch Abraham to that of Isaac. And we're seeing also the birth of Esau and Yaakov. And so as we look at this week's portion, of course, we're seeing Esau selling his birthright. And then we're also seeing Isaac go through a similar experience with Abimelech. The children of those two fathers, Isaac and Abimelech, his father, also, you know, are going through a very similar experience in the land of the Philistines. And so we're seeing how the deeds of the fathers are portents for the children. And that phrase in Hebrew, Ma'aseh Abot Siman Lebanim, the deeds of the fathers are portents or signs for the children. So we're seeing almost reenactments in this week's portion as relates to that of what took place with Isaac and with Abimelech. And then also we see the blessings of Isaac to Jacob and the promise of the dew of the heaven and the fatness of the earth and grain and wine, and he possessing the gates of his enemies, so on and so forth. And also Esau's lost blessing as the firstborn. And then, of course, Jacob escaping Esau's fury, and Esau marrying Ishmael's daughter, and other Canaanites as well, which was a source of spiritual rebellion to his father Isaac and his mother Rivka, or Rebecca. And so this week's portion is packed with a lot of crucial episodes in the lives of our ancestors. And so, as we reflect on that, in light of everything that's going on today, we're seeing an increased amount of hate events take place across this nation that is called the United States. Various attacks. You're seeing graffiti and arsons and things like that, not to mention the fires in Israel as well that have taken place. But there's so much that is going on, and we're trying to make sense of this stuff here. And, it's just a very, very intense time. Of course, even with Kanye West, him being arrested and also put into a asylum, very, very interesting development there. The attack on alternative media taking place as well. I mean, all these events are just unfolding. The president-elect Donald Trump is talking about taking away the citizenship and even perhaps punishing people with a year in prison for protests, political protests. And of course, we can't forget what's taking place in Standing Rock, North Dakota, with the indigenous people of America, resisting the Dakota Access Pipeline. And it's so interesting because the people of North Dakota, Bismarck, I believe, actually said, and these are just European Americans who said, we don't want the pipeline in our area. They just gave a verbal. So they rerouted it through Standing Rock, and now the indigenous people are being persecuted and being maligned and demonized and, of course, beaten and arrested for their resistance to have a pipeline go through their lands, their sacred lands. And so, I mean, it's so much that we can really address and touch base on. The death again of Fidel Castro of Cuba, and how his efforts to free Cuba from imperialism and colonialism. And he has truly left a remarkable legacy, particularly for even African people in Africa as well, for South Africa, and dealing with Ghana and dealing with Angola and other areas. Him and Che Guevara were very essential in many of the liberation movements that took place in Africa and their connection there. And so, I mean, the list goes on and on. There is much to keep our eyes on. Turkey declaring war on Syria. What is the ramifications of that? How is that going to affect the global chessboard? And so there's so much that we can address that is going on. And of course, also in Ohio State, you had the attack of the Somalian on the people of Ohio State, which ISIS is claiming to be a very, very crucial attack on the people of America. And perhaps one of the most largest scandals ever, that known as Pizzagate, which is revealing the satanic pedophiliacs in political office and the elites who are just rife with corruption and perversion. And so this Pizzagate unveiled has truly dropped a bomb on the darkness and exposed the darkness of these elites who are just demonic. There's really no other way to put it. And of course, we're also dealing with the continued push of the Sustainable Development Goals of Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. I mean, the list goes on and on. But what I'm going to do now is answer this phone call and say shalom alaikum to my Ak, Divine Prospect. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, Ak, and you?
Oh, man, hallelujah. All is well. All is well. Just was going over some current events, just, headlines more than anything, and not going into detail, but, so much going on in the world. I just wanted to kind of just, prep the listening audience and keep their ears, attuned to what is going on in this world. But we're going into the depths with Divine Prospect this evening. And so, first and foremost, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening here at Hebrew Vision Live. I want to definitely expose you to Hebrew Vision's listening audience. And so, if you don't mind, brother, just open up and sharing with our listeners who is Divine Prospect.
Awesome. So, first and foremost, I want to give all honor and praise to the Most High Yah. And I want to thank my brother, the End Time Scribe, for the invite onto Hebrew Vision Live. It's definitely a great honor to be on the show. After taking a listen to some of the previous sessions, I was pretty intrigued and, highly interested and definitely contributing to the platform because, this is the type of subject matter that more individuals in our community should be engaging with. So I definitely applaud the brother for this awesome show that he has here and for allowing me to be a guest. Secondly, I want to say, as far as Divine Prospect was a moniker that was created to engage the Black Conscious community from the angle of being an RBG-based Hebrew Israelite. It was something that was kind of neutral, a name that was kind of neutral, that could pretty much exemplify the essence of what I wanted to embody at the time, and it still resonates up to today. So, my objective is to educate the masses on culture, and once you give them the foundation of culture, then they can build a house of autonomy. And in being autonomous, we can take back land, we can take back institutionalized schooling, we can take back self-sufficiency as far as feeding ourselves, food distribution, creating housing and homes, patronizing other for jobs, creating community currency, reestablishing Torah as a means of a Black nationalist constitution that unites all of us who want a moral, ethical means of conveying our social construct in this day and age and being able to engage politically where we patronize our own to lead the various ventures that we want to embark on as a people and as a community. So, Divine Prospect is just that vehicle that I get in and use to maneuver in various areas and work with people who are part of the plight and who have an objective to kind of want to advance us in a way, shape, and format that has not been seen before. But it first starts with education and the rewiring of our people in regards to their psychological disposition and their worldview in regards to themselves and in regards to the system and the leaders that oppress us.
Wow, that's a mouthful, Ark, and that's a huge undertaking that is so necessary for us as a people. And I want you to kind of touch on something that you just brought up as an acronym. You said an RBG Hebrew, and I know I was going to get into that, but you brought it up, so I want you to just dive into that right now. What is an RBG Hebrew, Ark? And talk about how that relates to those outcomes and those goals that you have listed and enumerated just recently.
Awesome. So there's a niche of Hebrew Israelites that actually fit in that area that is labeled RBG Hebrew Israelite. When I first was coming into the community, I was waking up out of Christianity. And, waking up out of Christianity, I got involved into Black nationalism and identifying white supremacy and the elitists that actually promulgated and caused a practice out of war between transitioned away from Christianity and moved into identifying myself as a Hebrew Israelite, and I'll probably go into that a little bit later on when I receive that question. I realized that a lot of the great endeavors that we've done as a people, as Black people in America, was because people banded together. People were able to see past their numerators, which are the things that divide us and keep us separate, and hone in onto the denominator and those common denominators that bind us. Mm-hmm. So as an RBG Hebrew Israelite, the foundation on which I stand on is the Torah, because that is the spiritual governing system that helps to establish the code of ethics and the moral compass in all those who subscribe to that spiritual system. And the RBG element is utilizing a community-based awareness that we need to be able to come to the table with other like-minded individuals who are suffering from the same oppression that we are, and be able to cross-exchange information, resources, knowledge-based intel, whatever data, information, whatever organization that is all working towards the same goal, which is to put us back in a preeminent role, so that way we can once again rule and govern ourselves. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have the manpower, the firepower, etc., to wage a war and fight for our independence. But the next best thing we can do is take back the mind of our people by, again, implementing cultural values, and also only teaching our people that we have to patronize the businesses and the endeavors and the organizations that we have within our own communities, so that way we can get all the resources necessary as a conglomerate community to ensure our necessary survival and preservation. So the RBG element is taking the Hebrew Israelite paradigm of Torah and turning it into a I would say, what's that called?
Dealing with Pan-Africanism now?
Yeah, well, I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
What's that called? Exoskeleton.
Okay.
There was a cartoon series back in the day. I don't know if you remember it, where the individuals would don or put on the exoskeleton, and they would use the exoskeleton to go and fight. I don't know if you've seen that before. But the exoskeleton pretty much is a suit that you put on when it's time to gear up and go to war and fight a battle. So, the RBG element is the suit that we place on each other, so that way we can see past the things that keep us divided, see the common denominators and the things that we have in common, and be able to come to the table and actually barter, converse, exchange, and use it as a medium, so that way we can increase or aggregate the resources that we need to build up our independent community.
Okay.
Yeah, apologize for that. What were you saying about the Pan-Africanism?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Ultimately, that's what, it's a part of that. RBG is the red, black, and green, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that is that tied to Garveyism as far as some of the ideologies related to that somewhat, as far as universalizing this consciousness, in the attempt and the aim of creating a more self-determined reality for us as African people.
That's correct. So it is embracing the ideals and the goals that was laid out by Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, even though he was a proponent for Christianity, he didn't let that become the dividing factor in organizing and mobilizing his people.
Right.
He was looking for that common denominator, and to the best of his knowledge at the time, was that the majority of his people that he identifies with in the African diaspora was from the continent of Africa. And he saw that as the common root that we all can bind together with. And along with that common root, also the common things that we experience as a people. Red, black, and green, red being the blood that was shed, black being the people, and green being the Marcus Garvey wanted to teach his people that even though we may seem like we are downtrodden people, we may seem that we are impoverished people, we may seem we are without a political voice or people who may not know 100% the historical continuity of our existence, that we can put those quote-unquote handicaps aside, and we can actually patronize one another and cross-exchange resources and IP, our intellectual property, and actually create a system where we are fully and wholly dependent upon one another and not our oppressor. So that same essence that he echoed is exactly what I've absorbed and I've integrated into my particular paradigm of teaching the Hebrew Israelite community how to be diplomatic, how to be ambassadors, because that's one thing that we lost in our community is diplomacy.
Yes.
And a lot of times, because we become so religiously zealous and dogmatic, we don't realize that we become our own hindrance in regards to any kind of quality of life we try to obtain while we are waiting for the Most High ultimately to destroy the kingdoms of this world and reestablish order, justice, and peace again, so that way we can flourish as a people. You know, and it's the last thing I'll add to that is that I've always heard the sentiment from my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters that, oh, we're in captivity and we're under the curses, and that's it. You know, it's like you have to live a life of perpetual depression and anguish and not have any means of trying to sustain a quality of life for you or your children. And that was one thing that I had a great disdain for because, again, it was a limiting factor in me following Torah. What is the benefit of me employing Torah if I don't get any practical benefits from it to confirm that I'm on the right path and be in alignment with the Most High? You know, I read in the text that they're giving you in Deuteronomy 28, starting with verse 15 on, and the focus of that being the fingerprint to identify who those people are. But what about verses 1 to 14?
Come on now. Right.
You know,
crucial.
And it seems that, you know, nobody wants to adhere to the benefits of keeping the Torah, but everybody wants to cling towards the curses as an excuse not to rise up and as an excuse not to face our oppressor and say, we're not going to take it anymore, we're going to take matters into their own hands. But yet and still, these are the same people who will put their kids in public school. These are the same people that will go get the jobs from the oppressor. These are the same people that need to go get a house and get a loan for their house or get a car, get a loan for their car. These are the same people who will go to the store and buy food. They will continue to be wholly dependent upon their quote-unquote oppressor, right? But yet and still, they won't patronize their own community so that way we can join ourselves to the benefits of following Torah as a whole, as a people. And I just said to myself, I'm not going to be one of those people that subject myself to perpetual depression and anguish that we cannot rise above our current status so that way we can improve our quality of life so we can be that body that's without spot and without blemish when the Most High comes, because being separate from the world means that you have to be autonomous for your own. And if you continue to integrate every element of your life into the world, then what would make you different than everybody else? Just your proclamation. That's not enough.
Not
The
enough.
Most High is looking for us to be sustained on our own selves. We go into the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29. It goes into depth with the Most High gives us instructions on what to do while we're in captivity. When we look at the blueprint of the Israelites returning back from Persian captivity to rebuild the city of Jerusalem and the walls and the temple, etc., we see that blueprint in action where they took matters into their own hands and they rebuilt a community. They re-implemented culture. They put forth back their constitution. And they did these things with the blessing of the Most High and with the resources amongst themselves. And we have lost sight of that to think that being in captivity, that we cannot build communities for ourselves and for our children. But yet still we complain about all of this power that the oppressor has over us, not realizing all the power the Most High has already placed within us to overcome that.
Amen. Powerful. Powerful. I find that to be very true, unfortunately, for us as a people. Let's go here. Because you already talked about it briefly, your transition from Christendom to the Israelite culture. Now, in light of that as well, would you say that your political consciousness came first or your spiritual consciousness?
That's an excellent question. I would say the awakening was spiritual first.
Okay.
And then it was combined with political consciousness. So looking at the two, and this is why RBG Hebrew is a moniker that I've done, because it touches on the political element and it touches on the spiritual, social element, right? So the political element or the political consciousness is that we need to be able to govern ourselves. Within our community, we don't know what a body politic is. We have so many people that complain about these candidates that we have had afforded to us in this corporation called the United States. And we scream bloody murder because the two candidates are individuals that have a track record of oppressing us as a people.
Right.
Whether that is through corporation or business, or whether that's through political agendas. And yet and still, we never see it as an alternative option governing oneself. The problem is this: when we look into the text of the scriptures and we see in the quote-unquote book of Bereshit or Genesis, we see a situation where after Adam and Eve or Hawa, after they have disobeyed the Creator, we have a situation where they are approached. And when they are approached, the Most High asked Adam, well, why was you afraid when I called you? He said, because I was naked. Well, who told you I was naked? And then he went on to explain what was going on. But here's the thing that our oppressors have based on for centuries. They understood the human nature. The first thing that Adam did, instead of owning up to what he had done wrong, he has casted blame onto another entity. And what the oppressor has done and what the Hashatan, the adversary, has done is created insurance, because he understood that it's human nature not to take responsibility for their own action. What am I saying by this? What I'm saying is, when you have a people who have been so dependent upon their slave master and so dependent upon the auspices of governmental intervention in their everyday life, we have a situation where these people are still breastfeeding from the same nipples that have been given them the sustenance to keep them downtrodden. The problem is, because we feel we are too weak to engage in the political affairs on a grander scale, we feel that we are inferior to those who have been placed in power over us. So what we do is we cast the blame and we point the finger to someone or something else, whether it's the lesser of two evils or not, to govern us, to have our best interests at heart, instead of us looking to ourselves and working amongst ourselves to create our own paradigm in order to liberate us. How does this work hand in hand in regards to my political awareness and my spiritual awareness? I realize that if your spirit is dead, your political agenda is misguided. Without the spirit guiding you, you would be tossed to and fro in regards to your political agenda due to subjectivism. If you do not have a standard in which you are governed, then you will gravitate towards anything with an itching ear that caters to you at that time. But if you're standing firm on a foundation that says do not have any foreign king over you, and yet you neglect the political element of being governed by your own community, you are now handing the torch over to another entity that you may call the oppressor, but now becomes your God. So I say that immensely because without the Torah and teaching oneself how to extract the immaterial and manifest it into the material, then you don't understand why you are placed here, because you are a reflection of the politics or the political system that is going on in the heavenly realm. And this is what I had mentioned before in regards to the divine council, because what so is above happens here below. So why are we handicapping the move of the Creator by not attempting to govern ourselves, but yet want to give in to the insurance of allowing another entity to govern us, but yet complain about the ills that we face in society day to day? So my awakening first came via the Spirit once I understood that Torah was the moral compass to guide me, and now the vehicle that I'm getting is the RBG element to say, look, the downtrodden people that the Creator is trying to reach are the so-called blacks in America, and in doing so, he is using his Torah to rebuild this country. And when I say country, I'm not talking about the country of those who are oppressing us or those who are the other nations amongst us, that have had ancestors that built this nation from the ground up with blood, sweat, and tears without giving any reparations, that we owe them due diligence to come together, create a body politic, and establish a political regime to govern amongst ourselves with the spirit, or with the ruach that's guiding us in the process.
Amen. Amen. That's crucial. And ideology is always central to any political movement. And the problem, on top of what you're saying, is that we lack the ideology. And the Torah provides that entire body politic for us. And I agree with you 100%. Walk us through your awakening, if you don't mind, please. Just walk us through that. In light of everything you said, now walk us through how you came out of the Christendom into the Israelite consciousness and the political reality of the kingdom of heaven.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let me see if I could just do a brief timeline. So prior to 2009, I was not conscious at all. I was doing whatever I felt like doing, living how I felt like living. It wasn't until in 2008 that I watched a documentary called Deep Dice that began the process of my awakening. And watching that film, it had brought to light a lot of things that I was not aware that was going on around us in regards to the so-called Illuminati, the elitist families that are running the planet, the fiat currency that we're utilizing today in calling money, which is really not a form of money according to the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8.
Come on,
also dealing with the 9/11, issue or situation that occurred, which was an inside job. It had awoken me on a lot of things, but the thing that it was kind of pushing towards was this microchip, this RFID chip. So after watching these things, I'm not going to say I grew up in the church per se, but my parents took us to church, and wanted us to engage in religion, for the betterment of our ethics as a family. And I had some remnants of the scriptures in my mind, and they kept leading me towards the book of Revelation, which I thought was interesting, because I was not a subscriber. Even though I went to church, a lot of times against my will, I never really engaged and I never took it seriously. It was just something that I had to do because I was encouraged by my parents. So after watching that documentary, it just blew my mind, and I saw the world differently. And I was like, wow, you know what? They're really treating us like sheep because we're ignorant. So after thinking about the few passages I remember from church, I read the book of Revelation, and I've seen all of this prophecy that was in the book of Revelation. And I'm saying this is very interesting that this documentary actually has a portion that bangs on religion, but yet and still everything that they were talking about is actually the same things being prophesied in the text. Right. And I think they were more so attacking the Christianity element of religion as opposed to actually prophecy of the text itself. So in 2009, I was like, wow, you know what? This is very important. 2008 is when I saw the film. I was like, this is very intriguing. I said, you know what? Let me go back to church and learn from this book. And coincidentally, I was going back to a Bible study at the church that my mom had taken us to, and they happened to be going over the book of Revelation, which I thought was very eerie and very ironic. So I had all these questions. I wasn't yet ready to go to church yet, but I had no problem going to a Bible study. Okay. So after going through this Bible study and going through the book of Revelation and peeling back all these layers of prophecy and things of that nature, I was very intrigued, and I said, you know what, I'm going to see where this takes me as far as being a Christian. In 2009, I came to a revival in Atlanta, spent time with some family out here, and during that revival, I was resistant to, the call of God, and I was resistant because I felt that some people in my family were actually condescending and belittling me because I was not mature in the faith, quote unquote. So when I went to this revival, I had listened to the sermon. It had pricked my heart. I went online to get, hands laid me, I had actually, dropped to the ground and had these altar workers come by my side, and I was just overwhelmed by emotion, which I falsely titled the Holy Spirit.
Right. Right.
And these altar workers would say, "Speak, speak, speak," say Jesus, speak, 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 whatever. And then, interestingly enough, I had supposedly spoken tongues, which I thought was very interesting. But then I did research behind that, and that's something that you can actually learn. You don't really need the Spirit to do that. And I was actually I can actually do it for you guys. I actually speak like that on demand.
Right.
It's something that you learn. You want me to do it, or finish the story?
You can finish the story, Young. I got you.
Okay. Because I know people go a little crazy if I do that. But so that was in 2009. My journey into Christianity. From there, in 2010, I started my own ministry of teaching and help, where I would go to small churches and I would help them set up their Bible studies, their Sunday school lessons. I would teach apologetics and hermeneutics, which I self-taught myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would do evangelistic things with them out in the street, missionary work, hand out tracts, and trying to evangelize the people in the street.
Now, what denomination was you? What denomination were you affiliated with at that time?
So I identify with the apostolic holiness.
Okay.
So one thing I did do in my independent study was study cults. So I studied cults and I studied denominations in Christianity. And there's so many. It's mind-blowing. So after studying the 200 major ones, there's also offshoots of those 200 major ones. And I identified more with Pentecostalism because of my prior teaching that you need the gift of tongues in order to identify that you're saved.
I see, right.
What you're saved from is another story altogether. But when I investigated, I saw that Christianity teaches salvation threefold, right? The salvation they teach is that you are saved via justification, which means that you're saved from the penalty of sin. Sanctification, which means you're saved from the power of sin. And glorification, which means you're saved from the presence of sin. Okay. So that was something I had to discover within the ideology of Christianity to uncover what this term salvation meant. Right. So I didn't see it from an Israelite perspective at that time. Okay. So after preaching, after teaching, after creating a ministry and all of that, in 2012 was my last sermon that I preached, and I took a break from all of that. And I had a lot of personal things going on during that time, but a friend of mine who I was very close to, she was attempting to get into the Christianity paradigm because me and her were cool, and she respected me, so she wanted to see what it's about. She attempted it. It didn't really work out for her too well, and she eventually ventured off into the Black conscious community, right?
Okay.
So this is where the changing events occur, okay? So this was in 2012. So 2012, me and my friend is speaking. I think she started in 2011, but 2012, me and her was talking in regards to consciousness and everything like that. And she had, recommended some material for me to look over. I was the type of person, I was so gung-ho to being a Christian. Anything that was in opposition to that worldview, I love to challenge. And she said, I've been listening to so-and-so people and reading this, and this book as far as being conscious. And she's like, the Christianity thing didn't really resonate with me, so this is the route that I'm on. And I seen that she started, getting into the Kemetic wing of Black consciousness. Right. Okay. And I said to myself, being a Christian, Egypt is evil, and that's of the devil, and blah, blah. So she was like, no, just take some time, listen to this stuff, and read some of this stuff and see where I'm coming from. So I said, okay, well, let me see what she's talking about, because I was trying to find the Achilles heel. So that way I can find the weakness in it, say, see, this is why this is the evil, you shouldn't be getting into this or whatnot. So I looked into several people in the conscious community. I was looking into John Henry Clark's work, Dr. Joseph Ben Yohanan's work, Amos Wilson, Claude Anderson. Then I was watching some information on Ray Hagen that she had showed me, Professor Small. Then even knocking the Bible. And I was like, wow, this is some stuff that I've never heard before. And that's when I really got intimate with white supremacy, because as a Christian, I didn't see white supremacy.
Wow.
I just see the battle of good and evil. That was it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I didn't see that element, you know, because in school, you know, first thing that black children learn is that you started off as a slave, you know? And, you know, that's how you came to this country as a slave. And you got to work to civilize yourself, you know? But, you know, so after looking into this stuff, I was like, man, you know, this, I guess Christianity, I started to question. And I was like, man, you know, they're making some great points in regards to Christianity and black power and all of this black nationalism stuff. I was like, okay, let me look into this further. And that's when I looked into Marcus Garvey, started looking into the Black Panthers and so forth. I was like, wow. At this point, and again, I'm going to keep it, this is the abridged version now. At this point, I had previously went on the street corners in New York City, and I was challenging a lot of the black Hebrew Israelites that was on the street corners preaching.
Okay.
Ironically, a lot of them are cool with me right now and actually come to me for some stuff sometimes. But I was actually, as a Christian, you know, semi-debating them, challenging them, questioning them. And even though I did all of that, they were very resilient in responding to a lot of the things that I was saying. I was teaching a ecumenical doctrine that, you know, Jesus died for everybody and that salvation is for all and things of that nature. So I was staying mostly in the New Testament when I made a lot of my argument, and more specifically in the Pauline epistles. And they were just, you know, using precepts from all over the text.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I bring up to say that they also identified white supremacy. They also spoke on the ills of slavery. They also touched on the transatlantic slave trade. They also identified things such as the RFID chip possibly being the mark of the beast, and speaking about how there was curses upon us, and that's why we were in that condition. So after looking into the information she gave me, and seeing them based on Christianity and even the Bible, for some reason I could not wean myself away from the scriptures. I don't know what it was. It had to be the hand of the Most High. So fast forward, after looking into the other paradigms of consciousness that was out there, I started gravitating towards the Israelite ideology because of these so-called curses. Because I said to myself, I said, man, why would these great nations, how did they fall? And how did these West African communities be ravished the way they are and brought over here in the slave trade? And why does it seem like the odds were stacked against us? It's like there's some hand that we cannot see that's involved in why certain things are overcoming us. So I started gravitating towards the Israelite paradigm, and once I identified myself as being an Israelite at the beginning of 2014, touching on it 2013. So I haven't even been that long in it, you know. I said, you know what? If I'm going to join this community, I need to contribute to the community. Beautiful. I don't want to come in here and be a cookie cutter soldier. I want to be able to contribute something to this community. And I said to myself, since I don't see nobody in the community that has a black nationalist RBG mentality. I don't see too many. And I don't see too many people that are apologists, you know, willing to defend the worldview of the Hebrew Israelite in a formal method against opposing worldviews. Because I didn't see this being done by my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters when they were being approached by the black conscious community. I saw the black conscious community was more astute in academics and their methodology. And their route to obtaining epistemology, episte meaning to know, ology is the speech or the study of. So they had a precise method of establishing their claims, and they had a concrete means of doing so. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to delve into that realm, and I'm going to bring out all of the concrete data to substantiate us as the Hebrew Israelites as a real people in history, and also showcase their migration routes and up to West Africa, and how a portion of them, a huge portion of them, have actually been taken unbeknownstly to themselves or to those who are pressing them into the transatlantic slave trade. And I said to myself, if I can validate all of this information, then I will wholeheartedly dedicate myself to teaching this paradigm. And I had to leave the Bible alone and put that aside and look at all the evidence to see if the evidence objectively point to the things that we do discover in the text. And I was able to come across that with a resounding yes. And from that point on, I said, you know what, I'm going to defend this ideology, and I'm going to teach to our people, who they are, what their identity is. And like I said previously, three things in regards to becoming Black conscious is, number one, is an awareness of self. You have to know who you are, why you are here, what is your purpose. Then you have to identify what is oppressing you. Is it white supremacy? Is it your own community, your own people? Is it something that is divine or spiritual in nature? And then the last thing is the solution. What is the approach to take to alleviate these societal ills that is encroaching us and taking over us, overtaking us. So after being able to identify who I was, identify the oppressor, then I started to work toward the solution. So I did double fold. Academia, let me get the scholarship aspect, but let me also balance that out with the political agenda of trying to galvanize our people behind a common cause and work together to cross-exchange resources, information, and be able to create a community that is autonomous for ourselves and be able to hold out until we are redeemed from all of this madness that's around us. So that's pretty much an abridged version of how I came into consciousness and came into identifying as being a Hebrew Israelite.
That's powerful, my brother. That's an incredible journey that you have taken in a short amount of time, man. And that's just magnificent. All praise to the Most High.
All praise to the Most High.
In light of your research, and I know one of the biggest issues that I've been dealing with as well, even recently, is that, Israel is not a historical people. The scriptures are not historical. Abraham didn't exist. David didn't exist. What is your response to individuals with those types of comments?
Say that one more time out.
I was saying, there's a lot of people in the conscious community, of course, not being of the Israelite culture, particularly Kemetic, the Kemetic culture. They make the claim that, Israel is not a historical people. David didn't exist. Abraham didn't exist. What is your response? And I mean that academically. What is your academic response to people who make such claims?
Awesome. Well, first thing I'm going to say is that none of these people who would make a wild accusation such as that is actually studying Near Eastern history and culture. If you go to any university that teaches Near Eastern history, and the best university is the University of Chicago and the Oriental Institute.
Okay.
None of them make this claim. So we have a situation where we have people who are so-called conscious to say the Israelites never existed, but yet this is not the general consensus of academia. And these are people who pride themselves in having an academic methodology to ascertaining their facts and information in their data. So the first thing I would say is that these people are unlearned in regards to the realms of academia and Near Eastern history and cultures. Here's where the discrepancies come in, though. What a lot of people don't do is look at anthropology as a whole. Anthropology consists of various things that make up what we call the ethnogenesis of a people, right? Okay. So what makes a specific people don a particular identity that makes them distinct from their neighbors and from others, okay? What you have to look at in anthropology is you have to look at the scriptures as literature, right? And again, literature is not a bad word. Right. Literature just means that it is the text, codified text that has been put together based on the social memory of the people, okay? This can consist of history, it can consist of legends, and it can consist of myths, it can consist of all these things.
Right.
But pretty much it is the compilation of the social archaeology is being able to study ethnic markers that make certain people distinct. And several ethnic markers is this. One ethnic marker is burial. How are people buried in ancient times? Okay? The Israelites, according to the scriptures and according to archaeology, use rock-cut tombs where they would place the bones or the body of a dead loved one and leave them there for about a year. And after the flesh has fully decomposed, because you can't remove it if there's flesh still on it, you take those bones and you place it into an ossuary. And you repeat this process, and you put as many people from that family or that lineage in that ossuary as possible, so that way they can stay together as a unit in death as they were in life. So you have this way that they would bury their dead, okay? Another method is they have regular burials as well, where you have what's called cultic items. A cultic item is an item that's distinct to a particular culture of people that you don't see in other cultures, okay? You look at pottery, okay? So we had an emergence of pottery in Iron Age 1 and Iron Age 2 called Israelite pottery, okay? And this is pottery that was really like burgundy or burnished, dark burnished brown color. It had what's called a collared lid, and it had black banding on it. You see this start to surface around Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2, okay? And you also have to look at structure as far as housing. The Israelites were known to create what's called a four-room mud brick house. So we're looking at structures of these people as well. We're also looking at diet, okay, in regards to the animals that was kept for food, and also animals that was kept in regards to herds. And what we discovered is that the places that would be eating areas, we didn't see any quote-unquote unclean animals. And anybody who studies Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2 Israelite sites will let you know that these are people who you did not find any swine bones amongst them as far as food, any dog bones amongst them for food, any crustaceans, or anything that is deemed unclean in the book of Leviticus is not found amongst these sites, okay? Which again is also telling. You also have what's called Astrakhan. So we have the Tel-Arad letters, and we also have the Lachish letters. And these letters are showing or showcasing literacy, at least in the 7th century BCE, by these people who have an awareness of who they are as an identity, who their oppressors were. In the case of the Lachish letters, were letters that was written right before the Babylonian siege and captivity, and these people were identifying who their oppressors were. Now, this is information from the people themselves, not outsiders. We have several things. The Moabite stone, which is one culture of people identifying another culture of people, and calling them Israel. We have a situation where we have the so-called Meneptah stela, because now in Egyptology, there's a debate whether or not it should either be ascribed to Meneptah or another Nisut. We have the name Israel. You know, we have some people who make the argument to say, oh, it doesn't really say Israel, it says Jezreel, but that particular argument is not something accepted as the general consensus in academia, right? So you have that. You have what they call the house of, the 3 shekel donation, Astrakhan, which is a writing showcasing shekels and other items that's been dedicated to the first temple that was created. You have things such as the Shalom inscription, which goes to show the waterway that was the aqueduct that was created during the reign of Hezekiah. You have, I could go on and on.
Right.
So the point I'm trying to make is, I could list hundreds of artifacts, but the point I'm trying to make is that when people make this overarching statement or this generalist statement, which we call hasty generalization, because what they do is that they only try to see the culture through the lens of literature. And if you was a person who believed in the Kemetic culture or the Kemetic paradigm, and you only see the culture through the lens of literature, that is very subjective, because you have various myths, and also you have war relief, stelas, and papyrus or papyri, right? There's a study called papyrology, and papyrology is the science in deciphering and interpreting the various manuscripts of papyrus that was written by the ancient Egyptians and also through the classic Hellenistic Greeks. And the interesting thing is, in these elements, you have to use various sciences in order to look into a culture. You know, you can't stay stuck on the literature. You can't stay stuck on archaeology. You also got to go into historical accounts. Okay, so after looking at archaeology, the historical accounts, looking at the literature that's produced by the people, if it exists, you also look into the sister cultures to see if they identify who these people were, and if so, how they interface with those people. Again, this is a study that requires you to look at all different angles. And people who say the ancient Israelites did not exist are people who are misinformed or people who are ignorant of Near Eastern studies. Now, the debate in academia is whether or not everything we read in a text is actually reflective of what happened in real life in regards to the Hebrew Israelites. But in no wise do they ever say that these people did not exist. You also have in academia a split in regards to whether or not the Exodus occurred. Right. So if you want to challenge the Exodus and you want to challenge the veracity of the historical accuracy of the literature, that's one thing. But to say that people who, everything that we see in the literature fits what we identify in regards to their patron deity being Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, and no other culture donned the patron deity of Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh. Okay, and we even have the Ashrakan to prove Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, and we have several inscriptions such as Kuntilit Adrud, which is a site in the Negev border of the South Judean desert in the Negev, where we have a site there where we actually have an inscription that has the Tetragrammaton, Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh on it. We also have Kerbit El-Qom, which is another site that we found an inscription of Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh on it. And again, we see these in traditional Israelite locations. In the Quiche letters, you also see the Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh in the Quiche letters. Right. You also see Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh in the Moabite stela. Again, all this patron deity is only identified with this one people. Okay? So again, you see all these various ethnic markers, but you have to look at the garment of the data and be able to inductively reason and analyze from the ground up to come to a conclusion whether these people existed or not. And the general consensus in academia is yes, they did exist, but how much can we prove from the archaeological record and historical record that actually aligns with what the biblical text says? You know, so that's the only argument in academia, but they do not argue that these people do not exist. So whoever's making these claims have not looked at the full garment of data that's available and have not done any Near Eastern studies in depth to determine whether or not these people existed.
Critical information. Now, thank you for that. You're listening to Hebrew Vision Live. I'm Mikael Corbin Yahoo. We're here going into the depths with Divine Prospect. So I just want to make that known. You made a comment on Facebook a little while ago that has been pretty much ingrained in my mind. You said, let your research inform your doctrine, and don't let your doctrine inform your research. Talk about that, my brother.
Man, that's deep, man. Yeah, so what I've learned is that you have two methods of reasoning, right? You have inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people who have a preconceived notion of what a Hebrew Israelite is coming into the knowledge of consciousness, they take this preemptive strike to support a doctrine that is actually presumed, right? And then assumed. And what they do is that their research is only catering towards information and data that supports their doctrine. So when you do deductive analysis, you typically start from a conclusion and try to work your way down to fact to support that conclusion, which is called a theory. So you have a theory, you have a hypothesis, and after the hypothesis, you look for patterns, and then prior to patterns, you look for facts or data. So what they typically do is they cherry pick information to support their doctrine when they take a deductive approach to their analytical needs of methodology, of ascertaining knowledge of self and who they are. Those who take the inductive approach are that they previously had of who they are, and they're looking at the data that caters to that subject matter, and they try to find patterns within that data, so that way they can formulate a hypothesis. And a hypothesis comes right before your theory, and the hypothesis is designed for you to come to a semi-conclusion based on the analysis of the data and the patterns that you've seen with the data. And in testing that hypothesis by feeding it new data, it's almost like a computer algorithm where you have input, output, and in the middle input, output, you have the computation process. So the hypothesis is pretty much that algorithm that crunches the numbers of whatever you feed it and output the result. And what I do is that once I formulate a hypothesis, I continuously look for data that is pro and con and see if the hypothesis can stand up to scrutiny. Once I see that it is solid enough to stand up to scrutiny, then I come with a theory or a conclusion based on that hypothesis, and I continue to feed data into that hypothesis. And if I discover new data and the data that I feed into it computes to a different result other than what I previously stood on, I have to re-examine that and either harmonize it with my previous theory, or I have to yield to this new data and say, wow, you know what, being that I did not know this before, let me consider it. And it becomes a self-correcting mechanism, the same way the scientific method is. And having a self-correcting mechanism is great because it keeps you humble and it keeps you modest. I never ever claim to have the whole truth or to know everything, because I would cease to be a teacher once I cease to be a student. So I realized that this is an ongoing process of me coming into consciousness. So what I may subscribe to today may change 5-10 years from now in regards to my doctrine, because it's only going to be as good as the data that I place into the algorithm or my hypothesis and the results that it yields. So I tell people all the time, you know, you become dogmatic when you are stigmatized by a format that cannot be changed.
Okay.
And if you continue to don this doctrinal format that will keep you dogmatic in your approach to your studies, it would be very difficult for you to have any breathing room to take in any kind of new information that can better support your position, because you want it to align only with your doctrine. So the last thing I'll say on as an example of this is I did a lecture, a 3-part series lecture in regards to the so-called calendar. And I say so-called calendar because that term is not indigenous to Hebrew Israelite culture. You're not going to find nowhere in the Tanakh where the word calendar is there. You know, this is a concept that is foreign to the Semitic mind of those times. So I wanted to reconstruct the pre-exilic menological system. Menos meaning month, logical or logos meaning study of the month. The menological system that the pre-exilic Israelites had before being adversely affected by captivity. And in doing this, I had looked at the various paradigms that was there, and I just tossed it all away and said, you know what, I'm going to start from the ground up. And this was a very comprehensive, very extensive, very thought-provoking, time-consuming approach to working from the ground up and trying to ascertain what the pre-exilic menological system was of these ancient people.
Okay.
And I took an approach that I have not seen nobody in our community do to this day. And I had to work from the facts and create a conclusion from those facts. And it was facts that was pro, facts that was con to anything that I may have previously subscribed to. And at the end of it, I was able to formulate a conclusion that I have yet to see anybody in the community match. And that's not to tout anything in regards to my intellectual prowess. What that was designed to do is showcase our community that more life can be breathed into our culture when we examine it using a methodology that can be respected by people who are well learned,
right,
you know,
right.
And doesn't seem dogmatic. You know, when I approach academia, which I know professors that I speak to from time to time, I go to various lectures and events with nothing they operate. And I say, you know what? I can't bring a dogmatic doctrine into this realm. And the reason why I wanted to rub shoulders with academia is because most of our children are going to college. You know, we have a lot of so-called black people going to college today, and when they go to college, they come back atheists. You know why? Because we're not teaching them an inductive methodology to ascertain our particular disposition. And number two, we don't have our material in the colleges that our community can refer back to and identify with when they come to formulating their worldview in their myriad of discussions that they have with their college professors and their peers. So when you let research dictate the direction that you'll go in terms of your approach to your studies and what you identify with, you'll be able to discover things that you never saw before. And it's not designed to scare anybody, but it's designed to challenge us to step up the status quo. So that way, when it comes to defending our worldview against other communities, we have a stronger foundation to stand on that is not solely rooted in dogma, solely rooted in doctrine, and solely rooted in any kind of presuppositions that we've come into the knowledge of because we have not questioned what we were taught, you know?
Right.
And I want to continue to lead that self-correcting paradigm with our community so that way we can continue to advance, you know, the direction in which our community is going so that way we can challenge the societal status quo.
That's powerful, brother. That's powerful. So a lot of us are familiar with your works via the House of Consciousness and dealing with Sonetta TV and so on and so forth. How would you just describe your experience dealing with Sonetta and the rest of the different you know, cultural affiliations that are there at the House of Consciousness?
Yeah, so cultural affiliates, people who are culturally affiliated with organizations and personalities, right? So you have individuals that are not part of any organization, which is a personality, and then you have people that represent various schools of thought. Interestingly enough, when I came into consciousness, I said, I want to find a way to bring this Hebrew Israelite paradigm to the Black conscious community. I want to do so in a way where there's no walls up. So I had to take an approach that was very objective, right? And I had to create a presentation that wouldn't be immediately shunned away by the conscious community because of cultural wear, because of cultural jargon from the Israelite ideology. So I created a lecture called The Bible Provide Insight on the Condition of Blacks in America. When I was first working on that project, I said, you know, I want to get this information in the Black conscious community. So I was assessing various platforms that was in the conscious community at that time, and I narrowed it down to 4 major platforms. And I wanted to go to an event, speak to the hosts and owners of these platforms, and be able to build a rapport with them so I can present this information. And everything led me to select Sonetta's platform. I liked Sonetta's platform initially because it was very challenging. There was a lot of debate. There was a lot of great minds coming and giving lectures and things of that nature. So I said, you know what, this seems like it's the most pliable platform to present this data in to see where things go. At that time, I had already formulated my Kingdom Harbinger Ministries organization. I had a staff of about maybe 5 people. Today I have about 20 people, and that's only because I did a lot of restructuring of the organization. So next year, it will grow more rapidly when I open it up again for membership. So I had a small staff, but mostly I was doing most of the grunt work. And I said to myself, I'm going to go to this ISUBK cookout in 2014. And I went to the ISUBK cookout in 2014. And at that time, nobody knew who I was. If you actually go to YouTube, you can see the first video of me in that community. And it's a 30-second clip that Sonetta opens the video aware of the Hebrew Israelite community can be aware of it. So I believe you can type in ISUPK Cookout, and you can type in Shaka Atmos and Imam Bashir, because the majority of that video was them having a dialogue back and forth. But if you go back to it, that's the first video you'll see of me on Soneta's platform. Okay. When I went to the cookout, prior to me going to the cookout, I had called Soneta's phone a few times and chatted with him a little bit. I called Zariak also and chatted with him a little bit leading up into the cookout. When I went to the cookout, I got to see a lot of these personalities that I've seen in the House of Consciousness and in the Hebrew Israelite community. And I was like, wow, you know what, this is interesting. So I sat, I dialogued with them a little bit. I spoke to Sutek, and I also spoke to Soneta. And after I spoke to Soneta for about 15 minutes, he's like, damn, brother, you got some knowledge. He's like, yo, I want to get you on my platform and, see how the people receive you. So after I gave him a 15-minute interview, he took 30 seconds of it. And I was like, all right, that's interesting. He said, yeah, but brother, next time you come back in town, because I didn't live in New York, he said, let me know and we can build. So I came back a couple of times, and in doing so, every time we got to build. And then I did another video on his platform called the Youth Movement Speaks Out. And then another video on his platform where we was actually antagonizing this hair company that was run by these Asians that was selling like sew-ins and stuff like that. There's a video of that up. And then from there, there's another video of me interviewing this 11-year-old who was knowledgeable of the House of Consciousness. So, up to that point, I had not did my presentation, but I was familiarizing myself with Soneta and the other personalities in the community by going to some of the events they were having. And then finally, I told him that I had a presentation I wanted to do. And he said, yeah, bro, that sounds good. I want you to come through and set it up for me. So that's what I did. I went there, and I realized at that time Soneta had stopped live streaming because he was having technical difficulties. So, me also having a computer repair business and doing software support as well, I fixed that for him, and he started his live streams again, and I did my presentation on there. And after I did my presentation, it received a lot of feedback, and it helped to expand my platform. Okay. And I knew at that moment, once it took off, that this is the community that I need to give this information to. I spoke with, various people in the community initially, and then eventually I wound up having sit-downs and debates and all of that with everybody almost in that community. I had a semi-debate with Ali Muhammad. I had a sit-down with Polite. I had an interface with Amin Ra Squad and SETI. I attended a lot of the events to show solidarity and to network. So the one issue that I did have, amidst a lot of the pros that I can say, behind the House of Consciousness, is that there was too much controversy. And I realized that being a diplomat, you have to avoid controversy to a certain extent because you're still an ambassador for a community. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to reach areas that typical people in the community don't, you cannot cater to the fleshly nature of the works of the flesh. You can't, what some people would say the base chakras or whatever they want to call it, but scripturally will say it's the works of the flesh. You cannot cater to the works of the flesh, because when you do that, you then handicap yourself from reaching different heights. Mm-hmm. Number one. And number two, you don't become a great example of Torah if you're not able to hold your lower emotions at bay. Mm-hmm. So, I was placed in a lot of different situations on that platform where I could have went ham on people. I could have cursed people out. I could have fought somebody or got in somebody's face, but it wasn't profitable to the mission and the assignment the Most High gave me. Right. And it wasn't something that once I did it, the youth would be able to look up to. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to forget that the younger generation is watching us as being future elders. And the way we conduct ourselves is a testimony of the integrity that we want to become the norm amongst the youth that are out here today that is running rampant and wild. And if they don't see a difference between gangbanging in the street and intellectual gangbanging, then they're just going to stay where they at. Right. So I would say that was was the biggest con is trying to walk a thin line of unity and avoiding controversy. And I was known for trying to unify and trying to work under the moniker of being an RBG Hebrew Israelite with other entities in the community, but also trying to avoid controversy. But I've seen myself being drawn in a lot. So even though I did come up to the platform just to teach and sometimes have conversations, I would mostly try to avoid any kind of pitfalls or anything like that that would set me up to get into any kind of controversy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, it's taught me a lot. I would say that I still support the House of Consciousness and found on this platform. I may not agree with my brother's decisions on everything, but he has created a platform like no other. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to this day, I still don't know anybody that can really compete on his level, and nobody should. People should be starting their own niche and their own platforms. Nobody should be copying, right, or walking in his shadow. Everybody should have their own, right, just like Hebrew Vision Live that we're on right now. Yes, they should have their own niche, and they should fit into their own niche and do what they were created to do. Right. But again, even though, like I said, I don't agree with every decision made on that platform, and I'm not a fan of the immense controversy, I do appreciate the information being shared, and I do like admire the hard work that Sarnetta has put in to build that brand. So for his mm-hmm. work ethic, I definitely have to admire him, even though, we may disagree on some things personally. Right. But the platform, I could say, is second to none, and it has allowed me the opportunity to reach Israelites who didn't know they were Israelites. Beautiful. People say, "Oh, Devon, why you dealing with Netta and our platform?" I have over 100 accounts, and I can run down the list of brothers and sisters who came into being an Israelite because they saw the information I put on that platform. That's beautiful. So it would be 100 plus brothers and sisters less if I had not put a few teachings on there or even spoke on there. So I give all praise to the Most High Yah for creating that opportunity to reach his people, because they felt that other leaders in the Hebrew Israelite community that was interfacing with the conscious community was insufficient in concretely backing up their claims mm-hmm. for supporting, number one, the existence of the Israelites, number two, the veracity of the scriptures, and number three, the ideology that the migration route from Israel to West Africa to America, any kind of extra biblical evidence to validate that, they were not seeing people present that information, and once they came into the knowledge of that, they yielded themselves over to the Creator. That's powerful. That's powerful. Hey, briefly, what do you see debates as effective, or something that we need a more reason? Even if it's like cross culture, like let's take like Nasi and Sarah Suit and Seti. Do you see that as being something that's effective or counterproductive or counter-effective? I see it as being productive. Okay. And again, I'm not against debate. I'm against controversy. Okay, I got what you're saying. And a lot of times people don't know how to distinguish between the two. A debate is always healthy because the purpose of debate is for you to bring an argument and for your opponent to bring a counter argument, and for you both to substantiate your arguments and give the audience an opportunity to objectively choose who has better presented the information, sans logical fallacies, right? Mm-hmm. So that is what a healthy debate is, and that happens all the time in academia and everywhere else. Controversy is typically what ensues before a debate takes place, and controversy typically is the negativity that's designed to draw in our people. Unfortunately, in the day and age that we live in this generation, our community has been plagued with reality shows, and reality shows have a knack for gravitating you and gluing you to the screen based on the controversy of arguments and fights and belittlement and ad hominem attacks. Right. I mean, that is controversial because it stirs up a discussion that is not altogether productive. Right. So I believe always in debates, and I believe debating is very healthy because it helps you to grow, helps you to learn. And it's not designed for you to win every debate, because if you win every debate, you will never grow. controversy that creates all of this negativity and fighting and just being a dividing. You know, it's just
divisive. Yeah.
So debates is healthy, and I encourage debates, but controversy and infighting and division as a result of a debate or prior to a debate, I'm not for that.
Gotcha.
So yes, the Nazi and Sarah Suicide was one of the first debates that I watched coming into the conscious community. You know, so I can't knock that because I learned a lot, you know, from watching that.
Truly.
And I was like, wow, you know what? You know, I see a lot of information that these brothers are presenting, and it helps me to better my argumentation.
Yes.
So no, I'm not against a debate. I'm against controversy, division, negativity, because those are the tools that white supremacy has ingrained into our minds to keep us infighting, so that way we won't unite as a people.
Crucial. So you mentioned Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. Talk to us about what is Kingdom Harbinger Ministries.
Yeah, so Kingdom Harbinger Ministries was formulated in December 2013, and the kingdom that is being mentioned of is the kingdom of the Most High Yah. And a harbinger is the individual that goes before a king or an army and announces their arrival and makes preparations for their lodging or for their stay. And a kingdom harbinger is somebody that goes before the Most High to the people of the Most High, first and foremost, and kind of announce the coming of the Most High's kingdom, but also prepares the people to receive the Most High. And Kingdom Harbinger Ministries is formulated on the basis of establishing culture and through education and activism, because you need to be proactive against things that are counterproductive to establishing culture, and to also be autonomous. So the objective is, how do we create a people without spot or without blemish that the Most High can receive unto himself? And in order to do so, we must first re-educate our communities to identify with who they are, be able to see who the oppressor is, and be able to create solutions, whether that's in the realm of technology, in the realm of education, in the realm of black businesses, in the realm of formulating body politics. So Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, the objective is, how do we create a cultural, diverse, distinct, autonomous body of believers and subscribers to the Hebrew Israelite faith, people from the lineage of the faith, people who are grafted into the faith? How do we prep them to receive the kingdom of the Most High? And I realize that the best way to please the Most High is to separate yourself little by little from this Babylonian system that has us captive. Yes, and the only way you can do that is to become autonomous. Yes, and once you're autonomous, then you are being prepped to receive the kingdom that is to come.
Yes, sir. So what projects have you been engaged with Kingdom Harbinger Ministries?
A lot of projects. I mean, activism. You know, a lot of times when we hear about these shootings, police shootings, me and Kingdom Harbinger Ministries are there at these various events, networking and laying down blueprints. When I was out in Baltimore, our objective for going out there was to speak to the disenfranchised activists. And a disenfranchised activist will be somebody like a gang member or a gang leader who shows solidarity for the common cause, but yet have no contingency plan after everything is said and done and the cameras leave and go off. So going out there, our objective is to look at these brothers for the skills that they do have and show them how to transmute it in a constructive format to rebuild their community. And the objective was not to force upon them the Hebrew Israelite ideology, but give them something practical. And when they go back to seek the purpose behind, well, why did you approach me with this when I'm a disenfranchised member of society? You let them know that it's because the Creator has chosen you and used me as the vessel to wake you up. So we go to these various protests and these march, and what we do is we galvanize the people behind blueprints that they can utilize to organize and mobilize and rebuild their community. So we do that. We do food pantries before. We also are big on businesses. So the encouragement for the organization is that everybody that's part of the organization has to have their own business, black-owned business, or be a part of a black-owned business. Because what we want to teach is that when somebody joins the organization, it's a self-sustaining organization. Mm-hmm. That means that if you need clothing, we have somebody that deals with seamstry. If you need food, we have somebody that deals with farms. If you need housing, we have some people that build or do carpentry. If you need debt eliminated, we have people that deal with debt. If you have health issues, we have people that deal with naturopathic remedies. If you need management, we have people that do management. If you need skincare, we have people that do skincare products. Mm-hmm. If you need anything that you may need, everybody who is part of this organization is either has their own business or they're part of a business of somebody that's part of the organization. And the objective is to be autonomous so that when you join it, you are actually entering into a community that's self-sustaining.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And were you in Ferguson as well? Did I see you in Ferguson?
Yes. But when I was in Ferguson, I wasn't really known like that.
Okay.
Yes. So nobody really knew me like that when I was there. So me and my organization, we did what we did, but there was no cameras on us. Nobody knew.
Okay.
Until we started going to other things such as the Baltimore situation with Freddie Gray. I did a whole documentary.
That's where the documentary is.
To be professionally. Huh?
I said that's where the documentary is from, Baltimore. Okay.
Yeah, it's from Baltimore. So that still needs to be professionally edited so that way we can put it out there. We had a deal on the table to get it to Netflix as well and to Amazon Prime, but we had to put a halt on that because, again, I had to do a lot of restructuring of the organization.
Okay.
But that's something that we're still working on. We also have the app in draft format that still needs to be published, and the app is the Police Brutality Alert, Police Terrorism Alert, PTA. Mm-hmm. And it was designed to galvanize the community with expert witnesses whenever there's a police brutality incident that is occurring in real time. And the app is designed to, when you see the incident and you activate the app, it automatically records audio and video and streams it to a cloud storage service. So that way, if the phone is taken or destroyed or whatever, the video is still captured, but it also sends an alert or notification to prominent people in the community, such as lawyers, doctors, politicians, actors, athletes, activists, so that way they can come together as a unit and assess the scenario and either deter the police brutality incident that's occurring, or they can be expert witnesses in the case when things go down, and using the footage, audio and video, also as a means to prosecute anything that is being done inhumanely. So that's another thing that we pioneered, and
this is available now? Oh, it's not launched yet. Is it available now, or has not yet been launched?
No, it's still in draft format.
Okay.
Which means it still has some kinks that need to be worked on.
Okay.
But these are a lot of things that we're doing, and also we're working on a documentary where I'm going to Africa and Israel with my team, and what we're doing is speaking to anthropologists, geneticists, historians, griots, archaeologists, and what we're trying to do is see if there's substantial information that can be verified and that can be substantiated to be able to justify whether or not there was a Hebrew Israelite exodus from Israel into Africa, over to West Africa, and into the transatlantic slave trade.
And when is this projected?
We're boots to the ground and speaking to geneticists, anthropologists, griots, historians, archaeologists, and trying to galvanize this data so that way we can codify it and see whether or not there is a case for this Hebrew Israelite paradigm or there isn't a case. So that's a huge documentary that is requiring a lot of time, energy, effort, and resources to get off the ground. Also shooting a reality show called Divine Intervention. And that reality show is pretty much the purpose of it is to present positive, wholesome reality, a reality show for assumption of the masses that it provokes them to engage in doing things in the community. So my name is Divine Prospect. It's a play on my name, Divine Intervention, and pretty much what it showcases is a little bit about my life, but mostly about me engaging in various situations and circumstances, helping and assisting other people.
I see.
Whether it's helping somebody get a job, whether it's helping somebody with a business transaction, whether it's helping a family that had a fallout, a relationship that has a fallout, whether that's helping the homeless, whether that's going to protests and marches and implementing plans and strategies. So pretty much what it's going to be is a compilation of a lot of the work that I do to better, I would say, engage the community and intervene on situations where they typically would not have a third-party individuals, bringing them to the table and giving them a plan of action and being able to, give a spin on encouraging people who watch the show to engage, random acts of kindness. How many homeless people can you feed in one day, or clothe in one day? How many arguments can you quell in your family, in one day? How can you be more effective when you go to marches and protests? So I pretty much put myself out there, engaging these different scenarios and using it as a means of provoking people or inspiring and motivating them to get involved and engage in their community, and see how rewarding it is. Sometimes people only see reward as being monetary, but, monetary reward comes and goes. There's a reward that is greater than that. It's a high that you actually get from engaging in positive works and rebuilding the community and helping people out who don't even deserve. We even have a scene where we're going into prison and just picking random people into prison and actually trying to assist them. It's the purpose of it, like I said, is just to inspire people to do good.
That's
the
dope.
scriptures tell us with Torah, that is our obligation to our brothers and sisters. So this reality show is designed to put out wholesome content that will inspire the community at large and in mass to be involved in helping one another.
That's powerful, my brother. That's powerful. We're wrapping up. I got a couple of more questions for you. I want you to talk about the Black Power Awards. I know that you attended that recently. Some people may not even be aware of what the Black Power Awards were, but just, give us a little overview of that and what took place down there. And then I have one more question for you to wrap this all up.
Okay. So the Black Power Awards that occurred here in Atlanta, I attended the Black Power Awards because I was invited to present an award. I was initially, months ago, nominated for one of the categories, but I think the reason why I was not an official nominee was because I didn't have enough time in the community to put in work. Now had I been 5-10 years in, I would have definitely been a nominee. But being that, even though I was considered by the staff, after looking at all the other people that they had on the roster, they were more qualified because they had been putting work in the community longer. So, I found out that I wasn't a nominee, and I was okay with that. But then I was asked to present an award, and I did. I presented the Political Activism Award. When I went there, it was at the Riverside Convention Center. That's in Austell. And it's a great facility. It's Black-owned, from what I've been told. It's a huge facility. And, it was very professional. It was well done. The presentation was excellent. The comradeship there and solidarity was on point. There was no fighting, no bickering, no arguing. Everybody came out dressed to impress. But the couple issues that I have with it, even though it turned out great, and I love the presentation and everything like that, is, number one, there wasn't a lot of people from our community Israelites there. Granted, the ticket price went up to $100, and that was a deterrent for a lot of people from going.
Right.
But a lot of people in our community didn't go because too many of us are dogmatic and don't understand, again, like I said earlier, diplomacy. So a lot of dogmatic Hebrew Israelites are not going to be there with a bunch of Black conscious individuals supporting an event that has to do with, congregation. And we went because we are RBG Hebrew Israelites. We see past the dogma of our numerators that divide us ideologically, and we see the greater good in networking and exchanging resources and information with others, that we can aggregate that information and resources and bring it back to the Israelite community. So we didn't have a lot of our community there, and that was a little disappointing to me. Number two, Sinetta he was actually nominated, but he wasn't selected. He didn't win the award, and I thought that was kind of unusual, only because the category that he was chosen for, he's well known for. Brother Rich, which is another brother who's in the community on Underground Railroad, also has an awesome platform. He was selected and he won, but the fact that there was some issues with Sonetta being involved with the overall process of just being involved with the awards was a little bit disappointing to me, because he was one of the individuals that, looking at his platform, brought me into consciousness. Being my friend who was showing me a lot of content that was on this platform. So a little disappointed that he wasn't selected for anything and he wasn't involved in the process of either hosting or doing behind the scenes or anything like that. And lastly, I would say is that being that the situation with our community, the situation with the Sonetta situation. Lastly, I would say that I don't think it was long enough. It was a 2-day event. So they had the pre-show on Friday. That Saturday they had the actual awards, and then on Sunday there was a lecture that was somewhere else. But there wasn't any workshop. There wasn't any extensive interviews. There wasn't any plans of action.
That's what's crucial right there.
Yeah, well, that's my thing. You have all these people here, Black Power people. You need to be having roundtable discussions on how we're going to change the community. So that wasn't there. So it was more like going to an award show for the Black conscious community. It wasn't really geared towards revolution. And that's what I thought was going to happen after it was all said and done.
Self-congratulatory.
That element was not integrated.
You saying it was more self-congratulatory as opposed to look what we've done, as opposed to what we got to do?
There you go. Yeah, I don't think it was geared towards revolution. I think it was geared to just acknowledging people who are staples in the community. But that staple has a purpose, and that purpose has to be outlined, because it's the function that holds things together. So, I was a little disappointed about that, because I'm all about solutions. This is my last thing I'll say on it, is that the thing that I'm disappointed the most on with debate, with the conscious community, is that when you end a debate off without having a discussion about solutions, now we have a problem. Because what is the intent of the debate? To intellectually show off what we know?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, what is the solution? Are we going to continue to have debates and just, fill our heads up with information when we have all these people that are there that are suffering because they don't have any economic plan, political plan, social plan within their community? We have to take advantage of the fact that all these people have come together for a common cause, yes, for a debate, but now we can galvanize them and utilize them for plans of action to fix ills in our community. So that was the thing that I was disappointed about the Black Power Awards. But like I said, when it came to the presentation, when it came to the dress and the clothing that the people wear, the garments was awesome and on point. When it came to the after party, which I thought was excellent, I mean, it was exceptional. But those three major things was the letdown that I had in regards to the actual award.
Interesting. So that leads to my last question for you, and I want you to take your time with this.
Okay.
What does Divine Prospect see Israelites need to be doing in the age of Trump?
Excellent. All right. So I'm gonna end that with this, right? When people saw Trump on the news and Trump won and people going crazy, I was actually ecstatic. I was actually happy. Because what do you mean, Divine? You was happy there, but first of all, I'm not concerned with this man governing my affairs, right? When I put trust in the oppressor to fix my own social ills, now what I'm doing is it's a form of Stockholm syndrome, right? I've given up on self and the capabilities of self, and I am being wholly dependent upon a person that represents the oppression to support my needs. Mm-hmm. So my thing was, I was happy because I saw how the upset of Clinton losing disturbed, quote unquote, white America, right? We have people who are beating people up who are Trump supporters. We have people protesting, marching, do all types of craziness. And I said to myself, this is an excellent time for our community to use that as a smokescreen to get our acts together. Mm-hmm. Because I believe this next 4 years is going to be hell. And if we don't use that smokescreen now to formulate plans of action, to become autonomous, to set up our own body politics, to initiate community currency, to establish our own trust fund and trust within our community, to be able to cipher in silver and gold, and to stack up on hard assets, and creating our own farms, and purchasing and buying our own land, and getting international trade agreements with other nations, governments, not just corporations, but governments of other nations, being able to craft up technology. We have all these brilliant minds in our community, but they're all building technology for somebody else and not themselves. We need to create free energy systems so that way we don't be dependent upon the utility company to supply us with energy. We need to create our own cisterns and water filtration systems to reverse osmosis and other processes so we don't have to rely upon utility companies to feed us with water. We need to create our own earth ships so that way we can have self-sustaining homes and we don't have to depend upon this society to cater to us. We need to get our fee simple titles on lands that we purchase and own so that way we have general stock in it and that we can actually own something for ourselves to actually do something. We need to create our own self-sustainable farms. You know, we have to do all of these things right now while white America is upset over the Clinton-Trump situation. And if we don't take advantage of this right now, I'm telling you, midway into this term, we're doomed. If the borders are being closed and we're not traveling overseas, right now Ghana is offering thousands of acres of land to Africans in the diaspora, and most of us don't even know about it. I have a lecture where I actually talk on that. It's called Economic Subversion to Autonomous Conversion. And if you look at that lecture, I'll actually go into that and have the link there for anybody that wants to get some of that land. We're not considering, what is available to us in Israel, what's available to us in Africa. We're not considering having trade agreements with governments by bartering our intellectual property in exchange for their protection and their assistance with whatever affairs that we have. We're not appealing to the international community via the international decade for victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. It's a 10-year program that's been initiated by the UN that affords us so many additional rights and protections and access to resources. Most of us are not even aware of it. I did a whole lecture on it, and I even went to the UN myself to get answers, and I have those videos up on Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. I mean, these are all things that we could be doing right now, and that Kingdom Harbinger Ministries is continuously teaching and pushing and trying to get our people to wake up and take matters in their own hands. I mean, why are we even looking to a so-called president who is a CEO of a corporation to even care about our community when we didn't fund the campaign? I ask black people all the time, how much money did you put toward this man or this woman's campaign?
Right.
Oh, zero? Oh, so you think they're coming back to your community to fix things up and you ain't generating no income for their campaign? Okay, good luck with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we have our people voting for Democrats, and we don't realize that the Democrats, Dixiecrats, etc., was an offshoot of white supremacy, and they have a track record of oppressing black people from Reconstruction all the way up into the Civil Rights era.
Come on, man.
It's unfathomable that we have people that vote for Democrats when they have a history of oppressing our people. They prevented us from voting. They prevented us from formulating our own body politics. They disenfranchised us from labor unions. I mean, they did so many things to us it's crazy. The first KKK members were Democrats.
Yes, they were.
They're Democrats. I mean, huh?
That's it. Yes, they were.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the Republican Party branched out from the Democrats. So what I'm saying is, none of America in its inception was not designed for the preservation and survival of the so-called African American. It was not designed with us in mind. We were used as chattel slaves to build a nation for another entity who stole the nation from another entity.
Yep.
So it's just alarming to me that we are, number one, not enjoying the plight of other oppressed peoples. I mean, we look, like you mentioned earlier about Standing Rock in North Dakota. Those Native Americans, why are we not out there helping those Native Americans? Those Native Americans have sovereignty, right? Even though it's being approached upon, they have a degree of sovereignty. Those Native Americans have resources and skills, but yet we're not coming to their rescue and their aid. You know what I'm saying? So that way they can do the same for us. We're not showing solidarity with other oppressed people that are being put down by white supremacy, bankers, and corporations and government. We're not showing solidarity. This is an excellent opportunity to do so, because right now, white supremacy is smack dead in your face. It's not being hidden no more. It's not being disguised no more. It's up front and it's brutal. And what it's demonstrating is that we can do whatever we want to do with you and get away with it. You know why? Because you're going to continue to suckle the breast of this government and use the government for support. I tell people all the time, listen, if you're going to use the government for support, use it for your own betterment. If you get a Section 8 voucher and you get Section 8 house or whatever, rent out a room or something like that to somebody within your community and use those resources to put back into the community. If you get EBT, use that to go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and buy seeds and soil and plant a garden in your backyard, so that way you can feed your community. Whatever the government gives you, there's nothing wrong with receiving it if you're using that to rebuild the community, because all the government did was still WIC, free lunch school programs and everything from the Black Panther parties and Black national groups anyway.
Period.
So what we have to do is take those things back into our own hands and use what they are dishing out, whether it's whether it's grants or anything else, and use it to build a community. We cannot keep building somebody else's vision and get mad when that vision is not looking towards us. How can you get mad when you're building somebody else's vision, but want their vision to be in alignment with yours, when you were designed just to be the asset to make their vision come true?
Right.
The problem is you have too many visionaries and too little pro-visionaries. A pro-visionary is somebody that motions a concept into manifestation. A visionary is mostly just conceptual and theoretical. It takes the pro-visionaries and the pro-activists to bring things into motion. And we have to stop being reactive and activist when it comes to situations occurring, and start taking preventive measures and being proactive in initiating the change and being a catalyst for doing so within our community.
Crucial. Do you see repatriation as an essential element to our solution?
Yes, I would say that is definitely an option. And I have a lecture that was entitled Domestic Repatriation or Domestic Reparation or Motherland Repatriation. And I'm actually going to do a studio version of that lecture, because I didn't get to finish it last November when I was speaking about it. But you can go to my YouTube channel and see some of that lecture. But you have to keep repatriation on the table. And I say that because, again, America was not designed with us in mind. But if we are going to stay here, how are we going to buckle down and fight it out? But if we are going to repatriate, what is the game plan? How is that nation we repatriation to? How are they going to receive us? What skill sets can we barter with? Ghana is a great developing nation, and Ghana is offering dual citizenship to Africans in the diaspora, okay? And Ghana is willing to give you acreage of land, and all they ask you to do is bring you intellectual property to help rebuild and redevelop their infrastructure and their social, economic, and political construct. And we have, as Americans, we have to stop looking for hand-me-downs and handouts, and we have to start providing. When we start to take our intellectual properties, go into these colleges and these schools and all of this information that we get in America, we have so much to offer these nations who will be willing to take us in and look after us. And I'll say this one last thing, since it's relevant to something that I heard Hebrew Vision Live mention, and that's also relevant. Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro wasn't the perfect so-called leader, but he actually enjoined himself to the plight of black nationalists. You know, Cuba to this day still has a Santa Shakur there. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And other revolutionaries. He also had conversations with Malcolm X. You know, he even offered medical assistance. He even offered funding and so much other things to African Americans, because at that time we were willing to barter our skills with these nations for solace in return. But today we become so fat, we become so spoiled that we keep looking for handouts instead of being the one handing out what we have to offer, so that way these nations can take us under their wings and we can work hand to hand together in solidarity to build them, and in return receive their protection and their resources, so that way we can continuously survive under these auspices of white supremacy that is designed each and every day to eat and consume us, and it is designed to pit various races against one another. That's what white supremacy does, because it wants you to see only black and white and miss the gray area. Yep. We have to seek out the gray area, and after seeking out the gray area, the solution lies in the gray area. Never let anybody make you feel that the Hegelian dialectic is only limited to the thesis and the antithesis, because if you don't see the gray area, you're going to be subject to the synthesis. So we have to be able to get our people to wake up and look at the gray areas for solutions and try unorthodox methods for revitalizing our spirit and being able to get back to a creator whose sole intent and purpose is for his people to thrive and his people to be without spot and without blemish and separate from the society, so that way when he comes back, he can receive us with open arms.
Hallelujah. Let it be so, Aki. Man, this was Into the Depths with Brother Divine Prospect, and if you've heard anything, we know that we've gone into the depths. Brother Divine Prospect, brother, thank you for your time, and for the thoughts that you've shared here at Hebrew Vision Live. How can people get in contact with you, my man? If anyone who wants to build with you or bring Kingdom Harbinger Ministries to their city for lectures or whatever, how can they get in contact with Divine Prospect?
Anytime, King. It was an honor to be on your show, and I'm humbled that I was chosen to grace this platform. So all praise to the Most High for our connection and bringing me here today. And I want to make sure that all credit goes to him for anything that was said that is to empower the people. I can be reached, or we can be reached, at Kingdom Harbinger. That's KingdomHarbinger @gmail.com. I can be reached on Facebook under my public figure page, Divine Prospect, or you can type in Divine Prospect and also add me or inbox me on my personal page. We are also on Instagram for those who do not have Facebook at Kingdom Moment, and you can reach us at inboxes there. So email, Facebook, Instagram. And the website right now is under construction. It will be up soon. And when the website is up, the information will be on one of those social media networks, or you can just email us for it. And it will have all of the calendar of the different events that we're doing, of the promotions that we're giving, of the community projects that we're working on, the services that we offer, the lectures that's being given. But if anybody wants to request a lecture, you can definitely shoot an email to kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. If you want us to join any kind of platform that you're speaking on politics and nationalism and activism, we're there for it. If you have any kind of academic panel discussions that you would like for us to join in and represent the Hebrew Israelite community, we're all for that as well. And ultimately, we just want to be requested so that way we can make a difference in the lives to all people who are banded together by the common denominator of oppression, so that way we won't allow oppression to continue to be an excuse for not rising, but we can resort back to our spiritual consciousness of Torah, and we can once again say Kwam Yasharala.
Amen. Amen. And you can check out your videos on YouTube at Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And I'm going to post most of these links into the text box so people can actually access this here on Hebrew Vision and Live as well. But once again, Brother Divine Prospect, thank you tremendously, man. You are truly a Yasin to our community. I pray that Yah continues to prosper you in all that you do. He protects you, he keeps you, he covers you, and he continues to inspire you to inspire others and to continue to share your scholarship with us, man, because I know that I've learned a lot just listening to you and seeing some of your lectures, and it has been truly an inspiration and a blessing to meet a like-minded brother such as yourself. So Torah Rabbah, and all praise to the Most High. Hallelujah. So next week, we're going to have Brother Lexley Vortex here. We're going to continue building with some of these other Israelite brothers in the community who is just bringing all types of information and consciousness. So be in tune next week, same Hebrew time, same Hebrew location, Hebrew Vision Live. We will be back next week. Thank you for listening. This is Mikael Corbin Yahoo, the End Time Scribe, signing off. Shalom Aleichem.